Good morning, friends. It's Kate from Venison for dinner, and today we're going to take you through some fresh ground wheat sourdough baking. I'm playing around with a new toy I got for my grain mill, and I know it's fun to do some experimenting, and I thought you might enjoy doing some experimenting with me. I fed this starter more than 24 hours ago. It doubled, it sunk, it's no longer happy to make bread with. I missed my window of time, so I'm going to feed it part to just put away and part to make a big levain, a pre-ferment, basically a big feed of your starter to make bread dough with tonight. So I'm just going to dump it all in here, and then I'll just take a little bit to put it into my pottery starter jar. It needed to be washed. It doesn't get washed very often, so I had fed my starter in a jar, but I got this from the same ceramic artist who makes the mugs for me, and it's kind of fun. It's pretty. You really only need a tiny bit of starter to seed it, to then, tuck it aside for the next time you want to bake in a couple days. I don't feed my starter every day. I feed it every 2 or 3 days, even though I keep it on the counter, and just feed it when I want to bake. When I'm not developing recipes and I'm just making bread for my family, I don't really measure things. I go by feel. I know rough amounts. So I'm going to tell you that this video is not going to have exact amounts for you, but there's so many recipes on my blog if you want exact amounts. I want just a little bit of starter. I probably had a tablespoon of starter, and then I put about a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of water in there. And then I had about a cup in the big thing for my levain, and I added about 2 cups of water. When I'm making a levain, I don't actually love to make it with fresh ground wheat because it becomes a much stronger levain and then a much stronger tasting bread. But I do often feed my starter with fresh ground wheat because it loves it. So the nice thing about the Commill mill and this style of mill is that I can just feed directly into here and stir it, and it looks nice and thick. I want it really thick because a thick feed slows down how it eats and prolongs the amount of time that the starter is happy before I need to deal with it again. Because fresh ground wheat moves way faster than an all-purpose or bread flour because of the bran in it. So I just popped it up here so I don't forget about it, and it's pretty. Now I have a different goal for the levain. I'm feeding this looser because I want it to move faster. A thicker feed moves slower, and I want to use this tonight. If I wasn't using it till tomorrow morning, I might feed it way thicker. And I'm using the white flour so that I have a really mild tasting levain. This is an organic bread flour. This is a great thing to have little kids help with. It's pretty foolproof, and they just love being able to help.
We're gonna.
I pop the lid on and tuck it off to the side. I love to use this 8-cup measuring bowl because it has the markers on the side, right? So you can easily see that your levain has doubled. My tea has cooled down, and so I just perk it up with a little bit of hot water, and my lunch is ready, and it is time for Mama to sit down and enjoy this. The little kids have ate their lunch, and they're watching a cartoon for a few minutes, and the big kids have headed off trapping, and I've earned myself a quiet few minutes. So I just got this from the Commill distributor. So I love my Commill. I grain mill. I have had a Wonder Mill. I liked it. I had a Nutrimill. I liked it. I couldn't get like quite what I was hoping for end product wise, but the Commill mill is a stone ground mill versus metal burrs, and the flour is so much softer and fluffier. I really, really love the end product so much more. My family loves the end product so much more. Anyhow, I have been waiting for a restock on the Commill Sifter so that I can make my own all-purpose flour. So they have restocked them, and we're gonna figure out how to use this thing. I unscrew the hopper on the top of the comb. So you grind flour into a bowl, unscrew the hopper, screw this in, and then put it through. So we got some instructions to look at here. There's no English instructions. My initial reaction is that I'm not sure how much finer it actually is, but what I wonder is I ground it on pretty fine. I wonder if I need to grind it a little coarser in order for the bran to be bigger for me to sift it out. So we're gonna try this again. There definitely hit a point where I could see that bran was starting to come through. Like if I just kept going and going, you do have to stop. At a certain point, you can't just leave it alone, I think. This is the fine ground that I sifted, and this is the coarser ground that I sifted. There's only a real little difference. There is more bran in there. I'm making a flour mess everywhere, but I didn't keep any out not ground to feel the comparison. I mean, it's softer, but is it like worth the effort softer? I'm not sure. We're going to make bread and see. I'm definitely going to keep it in the box because it's pretty dusty, but this is finer and this is coarser. So I could do a finer one, but I have done enough for now, and I'm not going to do any more flour right now. I have the bran, which you could use for bran muffins, but honestly, friends, if you just use fresh ground wheat, that's like the exact same thing as just making bran muffins. So this is actually just gonna get fed to the chickens because they love it. Wheat is really good for chickens. One thing if we didn't have this conversation every day, Hamish, but we have this conversation like almost every day. And it gets...
Yes, finally, that's my chair.
So I started with roughly the same amount of each things. I obviously didn't measure the levain, but everything else. I used up all of the stuff that was coarser ground because remember, more bran got sifted out of it. So more came out even though I started with about the same amount of hard white wheat berries. Whereas the stuff that was finer and less bran came out, I still have some left. So these, I'm going to cover these and they're going to sit now for 20 to 30 minutes and then we'll come back and see how they're doing. Just hang it up so it's off the counter. I love this bowl cover. It's quilted on the outside, but the inside's like a diaper cover fabric. And while I was doing bread, Marius had made me a cup of mint tea, which I am very thankful for, so I can go sit down and enjoy that while they watch a movie. I will watch with them and drink my tea. People often would get their hand covered in flour to knead dough, but I find it's better to just get your hand wet because I don't necessarily need to add more flour. But you'll see that already the gluten structure is starting to form. The bran of fresh ground wheat needs more time to hydrate than all-purpose flour. So it really needs you to let it sit before you try knead it. And it doesn't need to be kneaded very much because time replaces effort with bread, and because sourdough is a long game, this is going to rise overnight. I don't hardly have to knead it. I'm just kneading it to make a uniform dough. But as you can see, it went from being like a thick batter to now it's actually got a bit of stretch to it, and it will just continue to get even better. So now it's going to be tucked in for the night, and it does its thing while I sleep, and that is my favorite part of sourdough, that it does its thing while I sleep.
Good morning, friends. It's 6:45. It's about -5 Celsius. No, colder than -7, 22 Fahrenheit. 18 degrees Celsius in here, which is like 65. Yeah. Let's see how our bread's doing here. Beautiful, friends. She's well risen. Okay, so let's see if we can keep these straight. The pottery is the one that was finer ground pre-sifted. This was a coarser ground. Really? Yeah, that would make sense. Somehow I thought it was the other way around. Apparently we were tired last night, but this one does look like it has a coarser bran to it than this one. Let's shape this bread. to light a candle, but this is our junk drawer where my lighter usually is. And I was bicked, friends. Someone took my lighter. Oh, that's really hot. We're doing it so that they give birth in a warmer season.
Well, and here's warmer.
The last 3 weeks of your day.
Yep.
You're talking about pigs?
I'm hot.
When are we waiting to breed them?
Oh, I was gonna breed them about February for like May babies. We wanted warmer weather babies. Those are so hot, Amos. That's what we had decided on.
Is this bigger? Normal piglets, so those piglets would be this big. If it was this big, it would be.
Okay, so I actually baked this bread yesterday, but then I left while it was still warm. And you don't really cut into bread when it's warm because then it's gummy and doesn't really show you what it's like. But then I got home and it was dark and bad lighting. So I decided that I was waiting till today. So I'm about to make some sandwiches for lunch. I'm gonna show you what the bread looks like, show you our comparison. This is a finer ground pre-sifting and this is a coarser ground pre-sifting. Just give it a fresh slice to see what it looks like there.
Be careful not to cut yourself.
So I think this does look like a... This crumb is tighter. This one is definitely looser. Yes, I'm going to make sandwiches wrong. I'm going to make little sandwiches with these. I just have to now... You know what? We're having the big bread for dinner. This is the coarser ground. This is the finer ground.
When your sheep lost their clothes, when your sheep lost their clothes.
So remember that the finer ground thus had more bran in it because it wasn't sifted out. And yet, I think it does have a nicer crumb to it. A crumb being the inside. So don't worry about the size, like one taller, one not, because it's not like I weighed them. But this does have a tighter, this has more holes. This is like a bit shaggier looking, this is a bit softer looking. So honestly, I'm not sure that sifting more bran out really did that much. But remember, my pre-ferment did start with all-purpose flour because that's how we prefer for taste.
I know you're like, Kate, but what about the texture and the taste? Is there a difference? I could not really tell any difference. You wouldn't have really known they were different breads without really working hard on it. So my consensus is more experimentation needs to happen. I think maybe we need to do a side-by-side of not sifted and sifted to further study these things. Alternatively, I need to use that finer sifting sieve because there was 3, a coarse, a medium, and a fine, and I did this on medium. So maybe I need to do it on fine and then compare the fine sifted to unsifted and see what that difference looks like. Either way, it was delicious bread. We enjoyed it as peanut butter and jam sandwiches. I used some leftover pulled mousse and I put garlic bread. This is on the loaf, sandwich loaves. I put garlic butter on, warmed those up, and then I put leftover pulled mousse and then cheese on top and made cheese melts like that, and that was really good. And then for lunch, another day, Marius made salmon sandwich melts. So like he mixed, actually it wasn't salmon, it was trout. Canned smoked trout that we do. He mixed it with some mayo and pickles, spread it on the bread, put cheese on top, and then we warmed it up, till the cheese was melted. And that was also really delicious in little French bread sandwiches. The French bread just really has a softer crust to it. Anyhow, thank you for following along on my nerdy experiments in sifting flour today. I hope you enjoyed watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more of our videos.